Okay, I suppose I am back. At some point I'm gonna have to get like one of those thumbnails that just shows that I'm on my way back or something, and that way it won't just pop in with me immediately being like, okay, I'm back. But yep, back, got some orders shipped off, got some other ones ready to go, and so hopefully I will have some more money soon. So what I'm doing today, what I'm going to continue doing today, is working on this guy. My goal so far has been that he very clearly had like, I don't want to call it an ugly wash, but I gave him a wash all over, which kind of added some character to the look of the model. But now my goal is to go ahead and hit it back over with more of a yellow, so that he doesn't read as just being splashed with a wash. Make some high spots, make some low spots, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to keep working on him. He's probably going to take me a little longer than most other models I've worked on, simply because I want him to be the best looking model that I own. At least until I go back and I repaint a Rogel Dorn in completely non-metallic metal. But yeah, that's kind of the plan for today. I'll probably be on for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half at most. I suppose we'll see. For right now, let's go ahead and paint us up a Primaris Captain. See what I can do with this guy and grab his armor. And actually, let's see, can I adjust the... There we go. There we go, that's a little better. And see, the one thing I'm kind of worried about is what's starting to happen just a little bit. His colors are starting to get a little muted, because as opposed to using the Averland Sunset that I've been using, I went ahead and switched over to Golden Brown Vallejo, which is a slightly different, slightly more yellow, slightly less like Velveeta-y color. So he's definitely losing some of that. Let's see if I can move that back a little bit, because there we go. But I'm trying to get a blend between the yellow and the brown to add some shades of darkness and add some shades of, or to work my way up to a shade of light. And not something I've really done a whole lot with the yellow that I'm using. So I'm learning kind of how to blend at these spots right here and do everything in my power to make it look more convincing than it does right now. So I suppose we will see as I continue working on this, and as I continue trying to make the boy pretty. Let's get some more yellow over there. Some brown in with it. Try and see if I can get a stronger yellow on this side, so that I can actually get some blending across here instead of this awkward solid line I have between the light and the dark parts of his knee pad. And my understanding is when you're doing this kind of work, it ends up being a lot of push and pull as you try and figure out the smoothest transitions. So hopefully at some point it will all balance out and he will end up having a really nice smooth transition between the brighter spots on the upper part of his leg versus the darker spots on the lower part of his leg. Yeah, that already looks a little bit better. So I'm going to keep that as is for right now. Eventually, I'll get to that point where I can start doing some really buttery smooth blends, but I'm just not there yet. Maybe if I wet blend this a little bit, if I glaze that over. Now, admittedly, on a miniature of this size, glazing feels kind of a bit extra. Because if you've ever done glazing, you know that it takes a lot of very, very small, thin, wet layers to really try and push the blends between different layers of paint. And it can definitely feel like you're working a little too hard for how little you're getting out of it. But I also suppose that since, you know, I'm trying to make this guy look as pretty as possible, that I should be glazing, and I should be trying to reach that level of detail. This is supposed to be my statement piece after all, right? back here. This should probably be in a little more shadow. So we're just going to add a little touch of darkness. To really hit the fact that most of this is going to be concealed by like his cape and his shading. Okay, there we go. So TikTok, or not TikTok, Twitter, gosh darn it, one of those, Twitch, has been recommending me new music to add to my playlist. So that is, if you start hearing some things that are unfamiliar, or if you can actually hear it this time around, that is because when I first log in, it's like, hey, these are some tracks you might like. And so I've been going ahead and just adding them to the playlist after giving them a quick listen. I have no idea if any of them are good. I suppose we'll find out as we play and I decide whether or not I like them. But, you know, they're there. They're there for general consumption. Okay. That part does not need to have that amount of brightness behind it. There we go. And again, glaze a little back and forth. Glaze a little back and forth. Hopefully that's going to look okay. Will say once again, I've started using this liner brush for a lot of small detailing, and I gotta admit, it's been a darn good idea. This liner brush, because of how thin and small it is, can get away with so much. So I strongly suggest, guys, if you're looking for a detail brush that will really help you get into tough spots, and will really help you like paint narrow areas that you otherwise don't feel like you can hit, get a liner brush. This has been fantastic. And I mean, a lot of you probably already have that, but it's definitely helped make my painting a lot cleaner. Because there's so much less brush getting in the way of my brush stroke, you know what I mean? Okay, on to the next knee, I suppose. And that's kind of been my biggest issue, is I'm not really sure. Like I said before, I still struggle with lighting and figuring out what goes where. So every time I have to do a new part of the body, it's like, okay, I'm not really sure how the light's supposed to hit. But I'm going to try my best, I suppose. I suppose that's going to just get a total glaze. That is way too much water on it. Get some of that water out of there. So yeah, we're going to once again go down from the light. Work our way down the knee with this lighter color. And eventually crossfade into the dark brown, which will act as the shadow of the light not hitting his knee. One, two mixes of the brown, one mix of the yellow, to give ourselves a nice dark color, especially because this one's a lot deeper into the dark. I'm going to go ahead and slowly work our way back up the knee until we get to a meeting point, and we're going to get rid of a lot of this moisture, good lord. And what's now eventually basically a dry brush, it feels like. But yeah, no more commissions, completely done with those for a little while. However, I do have a friend who is trying to sell some of his minis, so I've put those up on r/miniswap. And my goal has been to try and sell some of his stuff. And I guess since it's around, you know, the holiday season, it's allowing me to see people be like, hey, I need to get this. I would like to get this. Uh-oh, one moment. I'll be right back. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Ding. Okay, I'm back. One moment. There it is. Yep, just had to answer some questions. Okay, back to painting him. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was in the process of blending back and forth between the knee to try and get rid of this ugly border I've created. The good news is, once you get good at this, it's not that difficult. My problem is, I'm still not that good at it. My understanding, though, is pretty straightforward. You just take some mid-tone between the two colors that you have, and you just kind of thin it down real heavy, and gently brush back and forth to cover the area so that you kind of blur the boundary a bit. And hopefully your paint layer is thick enough that it covers the boundary, but thin enough that it doesn't create new ones on either side. And unfortunately, I'm still learning this skill. But it definitely does create some really, really nice smooth borders. What is going on down here? Why am I seeing like weird reds? Okay, let's go a little further up, shall we? We want that to be a nice bright yellow. And what you're probably going to see for a little while until I figure this out really is you're going to see me kind of push and pull back and forth and mess up my work and get back to it. Try again. But that is kind of the beauty of this whole thing, is figuring it out, right? Like I said before, I'm still very much an amateur painter who's still very much learning how you're too wet. Who's still learning a lot of the techniques. So part of my joy is taking the time to really sit down and figure it out. And I figured since I'm already down here, why not stream, right? So hopefully this ends up being a little bit amusing, and at the same time ends up being a little bit educational for those who are interested in learning. I got way too bright at the bottom. See some of that. There we go. Now I'm gonna redo the whole thing. Blend that down. Try and blend it down. Let's try and blend that down a little bit. I'm beginning to realize that maybe this is not the most ideal lighting for me. But that's okay. Oh, there's my favorite song. Okay, a little bit more. One. Man, this golden yellow is so sticky that when I try and roll it off the brush, most of it stays sticking to the brush. Very annoying. I'm trying to make a mixture. That more mayhap. That's a butter smoke. That's what I'm looking for. Same thing near the bottom. A little bit better transition. And hopefully it's so slight that you don't even notice. There we go. That looks better. On to the next part. Him leg. And same kind of thing. I'm going to go ahead and go back over most of it with this yellow. Because I really don't like how the dirty yellow looks. Which feels kind of like I'm defeating the purpose of doing this wash in the first place. But to be honest, most of this wash was for the recesses and crevices inside the armor. So the fact that I'm going back over it is not that big a deal. What is kind of a big deal for me, though, is that this brush is just so good at collecting paint, but not water. Okay. Come on. Okay, let's get more of you on there because there's so little paint on there. So again, just trying to get some paint on the shin guard. And then I'm going to go ahead and blend back down to a dark where I need to. I resist the urge to lick my brush. Like, I can get more moisture that way, but to be honest, I really don't want to put acrylic paint or acrylic paint water in my mouth. Okay. Yeah, this golden brown definitely dries a whole lot different than it looks when it goes on. It's a lot paler. So hopefully this will still be a good Imperial Fist Captain, Imperial Fist Chapter Master when I'm done. I feel like I'm putting in a whole lot of effort for a yellow. But that's okay, that's part of the name of the game, right? Nope, 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 nope. Don't want that. That is getting paint in the crevice where I have that lovely shadow. Okay. There we go. There we go. And I can actually dull that down a little bit because again, it's also in shadow. It's a little bit shrouded by the fact that it's facing downwards, very downwards. And so most of this will probably be kind of covered up and in shadow from the knee. So we're gonna add a little bit. That's a lot more. That's okay. I can blend that back down. This is what I mean about this being entirely a learning experience. I only have kind of a clue of what I'm doing. So I'm working with what my brush gives me. Seeing what I can do to try and fix it or make it better. So we're going to blend that back down with a little bit of wet blending. Same with on that side. And there we go. And in the meantime, since there is a part where the gun is very clearly holding sway over the thing, we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit darker shadow. Some of the darker brown that I'm using. That's too much. Okay, hopefully that'll be good enough. Definitely changing the look of the guy tremendously as I do this. He's going from a very deep velvety yellow down to more of a, just like a pale yellow. You know what I mean? Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, go ahead and hit this. This part's going to probably be a little more heavily shadowed given that it's got so many creases and crevices. I will say that one of my favorite things about doing this is that because of the finer brush, I'm getting to see a lot more blending and how good it looks. Okay. There we go. And now, thankfully, again, not that huge a difference. He's still got that very distinct yellow on him. But now the yellow looks a little more controlled, a little less wild by the standard of wash, right? Same with this, though. We're going to need to hit this with this yellow to bring it back up. That way it's more uniform with everything else. Okay. Let's see if I can get some of this extra wash off of his greaves, because that created a really nice identifiable shadow under the greave. But it's a bit too much. There we go. And it looks like it's still keeping that original wash that I did that gave him such good dark lighting. Okay. 1, 2. Gosh, I'm more tired than I thought I was, I guess. I'm nowhere near the talkative mood that I normally am. Mixing in some of the yellow with the dark brown to provide some color continuity. Same kind of thing, we're going to go ahead and re-dark line all this to show that shadow is still being cast by his equipment, right? There we go. There we go. Gives it a clear point of shadow on his leg. At some point I'm going to have to color that. Let's see. I guess his arm needs it next. Well, no, let's see. Where can I add some shadow? Because he's definitely got some shadow that needs to be added on parts of his leg. Maybe a little bit of darker shadow. Oh, that's way too wet. Maybe a little bit of darker shadow over where his greave meets his leg guard. So we're just going to add a little bit there, a little bit in there. Be a little bit more obvious with it there. There we go. Nothing too drastic, especially because that one actually is pretty exposed to the light. It's not exposed to the light is his inner thigh. Got all, and his inner calf. We got all this right here that I feel like could be a darker shade. So we're going to go ahead and get it into this darker brown, which will hopefully read as it's being in shadow. And of course, a little bit of blending will help with that, because there are very clearly spots that are not completely shrouded in shadows, so we can mix some of the blending in there. That'll help it read as slightly more normal, I guess. There we go. That way in the very end you can kind of see the darkness, but up until then it's all good. Oh no, what did I do here? Did I accidentally get some yellow on his sword tip and on the cloak that I spent so much time working on? Well, that's not good. Hopefully that'll be an easy fix later. Well, let's see, what else do I got on him? It looks like above his knee area, right here, there's a little bit I need to go ahead and hit with some yellow, and thankfully easy job. Okay, what next? At some point what I think I need to do is start getting a brighter color like pale sand and doing highlights, but I think we'll get to the highlights later. Okay, in the meantime, we're going to go ahead, hit that with some darkness. Just a smidge of yellow back into the brown to bring it a little bit lighter. And then Get everything under here with a darker tone. Beautiful. Okay. Let's go ahead and get his foot now. I'm slowly closing in. I don't want to say on this guy being done, but this guy being at a point where all I need to do is touch-ups. Mainly highlights, because he has been an incredibly tricky character for me to highlight, because I don't know much about how to, so I'm just kind of guessing where I think the highest spots of him would be, and how that would affect where he's going to get high spots. Okay. Give another layer because it didn't seem like it wanted to cover too well. Okay, but I'll be right back. Hey Snowtwig, sorry about that. I was answering some questions from a friend who purchased a new house and wants to know some remodeling tips on how to do drywall mud. Okay. This guy is looking a little dull, if you know what I mean. I hit him with a wash and I didn't like what that did to him, so I'm covering him over again with a little bit of another yellow to try and get him back up to a more solid coat. But it's leaving him looking pretty flat. So what I'm probably going to have to do with him is hit him with a highlight coat. And get some edge highlights in. And get some more transitions between high spots and low spots on him. Which I am learning how to do. So hopefully it won't go too badly. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not gonna try and be like, oh, I don't know, I'm just trying my best. I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. It's looking pretty darn good given how much minutia I'm doing. I'm probably working way too hard on him, and I don't need to be this kind of, like, detailed and fastidious as I am. But, like, I can't argue with the results, you know what I mean? He looks pretty darn good, like you just said. So hopefully I can continue with that trend. I can continue with him looking good. And when he's done, he's going to be a model that I'm going to be proud to slam on the table so he can get killed in one turn. But no, as a chapter master, he's going to have access to some pretty cool stuff. I'm kind of excited to play him. I think actually what I want to do, and this is me not understanding color very well, is I want to add a little bit of shadow down here, because he's got this crease in his paw, or in his shin guard that is not really getting seen by light, so it'll create something of a dull spot as it reflects kind of back into itself. That's the hope, at least. So we're going to see if that actually ends up looking like anything. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and paint back over it, I suppose. But yeah, something I'm kind of trying to resist the urge to do is start packing up some more minis, because I'm selling a bunch of old Space Marines for a friend who just never got around to painting them and realized he's not going to. So, hopefully, I can get that done before tomorrow so I can get them all packaged. How's your day been, actually? Because I can't believe I forgot to ask that. Appreciate you tuning in, checking out my stream. How's your day been? Let's see if I can... I feel like I'm missing something important here, that there's more I should be doing to really make this read as a reflection and not as, or a non-metallic metal reflection, and not as just a splotch of paint in the middle of his leg. Okay. Pretty uneventful. That's always good, right? No news is good news kind of thing. Yeah, today was about as good a day as it could be for me at work. Had an observation, so a boss came in and was like, hey, how you doing? Are you doing everything okay? And it was on a day where we moved a bunch of kids because one of our classes is just kind of getting out of pocket. And thankfully, the three that are by far the most disruptive and nasty weren't there today. So everyone else just kind of sat where they were supposed to sit. And then we ended up having a really good lesson, to the point where I was like, okay, we got 5 minutes left. It's time for you guys to start packing up. And one of them was like, how did class go by so quickly? Like, if you're saying that about an English class, then I've done my job well. Okay, there's some. Oh yeah, there was something I was going to show you. I was going to show you the slap chop method, I believe. I was mentioning that if you're truly really worried about whether or not your minis are going to look good, a really good way to get fast results that still look impressive is what is called the slap chop method. It's actually, there's another name for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's a very old style of painting that's kind of hit a resurgence because of people calling it the slap chop method, and it's basically undercoating, right? And it's a great way to get a lot of detail in your minis without having to be really fine with your brush skills. And at first I thought it was stupid because I tried it, and when I tried it, nothing good came of it. It just ended up looking like garbage. But that's because I was doing it really, really wrong. And once I kind of learned how it was supposed to be done, I realized that the slap chop method is friggin' brilliant. And if I need to speed paint an army, that's how I'm going to do it from now on. So if you're interested in learning, first of all, I can show you a real-time example here. But secondly, there's a ton of videos online that explain how to do it. And they all have varying degrees of like, this is great, you should do this. It's really simple. And some people trying to make it better. But it by itself is pretty darn good. It does a very, very good job of like getting you good, fast, or good minis painted fast. You know what I mean? So if you ever really need any, I don't know, inspiration, motivation, any of those things to paint a bunch of your guys and get them painted up real nice real quick. Is a Macaroni Man good God? Yes, he is. Look at this Macaroni Man. His nickname is going to be Lord Velvetus before we put him in the Dreadnought. Right now, I'm just trying to get him to be a super detailed Macaroni Man with some burnt bottom bits. That's the hope. That's the plan. And it's kind of working. But at the same time, I'm struggling a lot. But yeah, I'm liking how this guy's turning out. He looks good. What do I need to do next on him? I think I need to get... Did I get his arm yet? Kind of. I got parts of his arm. I got his wristband. I got his wrist breaker pauldron thing. I got that. His elbow. I guess I need to get his actual elbow joint. And then I need to get his hand. As I just kind of work my way through him. Hey, Soft Servo. So I don't know if I've talked about Soft Servo enough on this channel, but that's Soft Servo. He's a friend of mine. Him and I work together, and he's the one who got me into the 40Ks. So I'm wondering how bored he is in Lowe's waiting for whatever he's waiting for. Hop onto the channel. Either way, it's good seeing you, sir. Okay. Let's get this hand painted. Get it? He's hand painted. Oh, man. Okay. Get that in there. I'm trying to use a non-Averland sunset, and I don't know if I like how it's turning out. But I'm doing my best. Okay. There we go. Better. Okay. That elbow joint, though, is going to need to be a lot darker because it's so much more of it is going to be covered in shadow since it's definitely the bottom part of his arm. So we're going to go ahead and blend in some of that brown yellow mix that I made. Right now you're acting as a background noise for my drive. Great, cool, I appreciate it. At no point should I be so distracting that you lose control of your vehicle. And hopefully the music I have in the background is pretty okay too. Okay, and a little bit of this. Because we want to have a gentle transition between his the dark brown of the shadow and the lighter yellow of the shoulder pad. There we go. That actually looks pretty darn good. And then further up here, really hit that yellow. Okay, again. I'm not used to using this brush for anything more than extreme detail work, so the fact that I'm making it do things is very, very stressful for the brush, I guess. Or at least me trying to learn how to use the damn thing. Okay. But yeah, Snow Twig, if at any point you really want to see the slap chop method, I've got some minis that I can paint really quickly in that method, and you can see just how A, fast it is, and B, just how good it ends up looking. So just let me know, since I really am just kind of in free time mode right now, painting what I want to paint. I will gladly stop what I'm doing and paint one of the dudes in that way. I think It's almost good. Do that a little bit. And then go ahead and fight that back into that color. Yeah, there we go. The same kind of thing. Fight that back into this color. And I'll be honest, Soft Servo, I'm strongly considering just dropping my Epidemic subscription. Okay, just give me a second. And just like using your music, because I really like your music and it's got kind of that same chill ass vibe I'm looking for. No, that was too wet. I don't know, because Livesey's gonna be a lot of like airbrushing and a lot of spray painting. So I've debated it. Okay, I think his body is done. I just need to get his backpack, gun, and sword now. And probably his belt. I can probably do that. Okay, so Snowtwig has requested to see the slap chop. One moment. Let me find a mini that is worthy of the slapping and the chopping. Do I have any unprimed minis that I can dick around with? Give me a second. No, I got one or two around here somewhere. Actually, I can use one of these. Oh, no. Let's see. Nope, none of those guys. But yeah, I'm considering very strongly painting Livesey on stream. The only issue, like I said, is that since most of him is going to be spray painted and then airbrushed, there's not going to be a whole lot of actual painting that's going to go on with him. Go ahead. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Here's what I can do. I'm going to attach this guy to a base. So I've got this dreadnought here. He's a true scale-sized dreadnought. He's an unofficial print, but I can definitely do this guy. So the first thing that you should do is like spray prime your guys black, but unfortunately I don't want to pull out the airbrush just to spray prime him. So I'm just going to paint him black really quickly with a regular brush, with a fat brush. Just give me a second. Let me clean that off. And we're going to use some really, really shitty paint for this. I'm going to use Apple Barrel Matte Black, which has been an amazing workhorse for me when it comes to painting, because it's just become my default color, my default black I use for anything unless it's super fine paint. So we're going to use Apple Barrel Matte Black. I'm going to put it on my wet palette, or on my dry palette, because I don't even want to put it on my wet palette. And then I'm gonna take, actually, let's go ahead and use my workhorse brush. I'm gonna take this really crappy beat up #1 that I had. Yeah, Apple Barrel, right? The best. Okay, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do this as sloppily as I can so you can see what I'm talking about. We're gonna paint the entire thing just black, right? I'm not gonna worry too much about detail. The thing I do want to make sure I do, though, is make sure that I'm getting the paint everywhere. So all the shadows, all the crevices, everything needs to be painted as dark as possible. Or you need to get paint coverage. You can't leave areas exposed, or else you're going to ruin the point of the slap chop method, of the underpainting method. And yeah, Dana Howe has been a big proponent of this, and she herself does this a lot, even though she doesn't call it this. She calls it underpainting, because that was her thing before slap chop became kind of popularized on YouTube. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the entire guy in this black, and make sure to hit every crevice, every nook and cranny I can, so that he has like no white spots left on him. More Apple Barrel. And yeah, Soft Servo is a very big proponent of Apple Barrel because it's a cheap paint, and to be completely honest, it's better than Army Painter. Like, I've tried to use Army Painter, and I've almost universally never been happy with the results I've gotten from Army Painter, but I've used Apple Barrel as my white Zenithal spray and as my black base coat spray. It's just been a workhorse of a paint. Even though the pigmentation isn't great, it still does a really good job on these minis. I don't know about most of their other colors, though. I know that their black and white is really good for this, but I'm not sure if any of their other colors would actually be super good for painting miniatures. But okay. We're gonna go ahead and keep going. Yeah, get all of that. And you see, I'm not trying to be elegant with this. I'm really just painting the crap out of him to get him completely covered in this black so that he has a believable shadow, right? And I'm gonna miss spots, which I don't want to do, but it's gonna happen. So what I'm probably gonna do is, when I'm done with this, is hit him with a hairdryer so that I can be sure to have gotten every part of his body, even his little butt, little taint butt. Okay. Let's go ahead and get all that. Get absolutely every little bit of him. And so honestly, this is probably going to be the most detailed and involved step, because I don't want to use a spray primer since I'm lazy. But this will not be much more difficult once I get him completely coated. Okay. Get all that done. Is the model 3D printed? Yes, the model is 3D printed. I bought this this STL. It is a true scale Terminator. And it's got a lot of special 3D accoutrements, or chapter accoutrements, for like the Imperial Fists. And the pose is unique. Yeah, Apple Barrel's like a screwdriver. Very good for screwing, not for sawing or hammering. Yeah, I don't think I want to try and use Apple Barrel for sawing and hammering again. Last time I did that, the paint tube just kind of exploded everywhere. And then I had a mess to clean up. But yes, this model is 3D printed. It cost me like 70 cents to print. It was very cheap, but I think it looks pretty darn good. I really dig the old school Imperial Fist logo too. And so like I said, at this point I can afford to be sloppy. There is no real point in trying to make this pretty, because all it's doing is getting a solid coat over everything, so that I'll have something to work off of. But the next few steps, once I get it there, are going to be amazingly fast. And that's probably the coolest part about this. And it's going to show, like, immediate dividends. And the next best part about it is you're not even going to need fancy paints to do it. I'm going to do the next 2 steps with it by using more Apple Barrel. So it's going to be great. It's going to work, and it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to be like, holy shit, that looks amazing. The only thing you need are some cheap dry brushes. Okay, and again, make sure I get all the crevices, make sure I get all the underneaths. I will say, I am really impressed that the purity seals came out, because they're usually very flimsy, and they're the first things to snap whenever I try and print a model. But they actually managed to stay on his pauldron, which was really nice. Okay. I'm really beating up this brush to do this. Again, we're just gonna continue painting over the entire boy. And like I said, this is a step I'm making more difficult than it needs to be. You can very much just take like a rattle can of spray paint and spray prime him black, but I'm sitting in my basement right now, and it's like 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to have to do that, and I don't want to set up the airbrush. And then have to clean it up and whatnot. Okay. Get his fingies. But yeah, I will admit, I am really impressed with the versatility of Apple Barrel. I honestly expected this paint to be absolutely terrible. But at the very worst, it's okay. And that's far more than I can say about Army Painter. Army Painter was absolutely terrible. I tried buying some more Army Painter recently, and I tried using that paint on things, and I've never had to fight a paint as much as I have to fight Army Painter. So I don't want to say anything overly aggressively negative about them, like hostile to them, but I just really hope that at some point they get their formula together and make a less terrible paint. Because they really are a lot of people's first foray into the hobby colors-wise, and that ends up being a problem because they use that paint and think, oh man, miniature painting's hard. The paint itself is difficult, you know, and nothing can be further from the truth. With good paint, it just goes on and you're good to go. With Army Painter, you might as well buy or get like 3 layers of it done, because you're going to need that many for coverage. Okay, let's see. I think that's good enough coverage. I don't know. What do you think? Does he look like he's completely covered in black? I mean, the camera's having a hard time picking him up, so I'm going to have to say that that's yes. I am going to hit him with the hairdryer really quick to dry him out more. Yeah, this is gonna take me a second because definitely slopped it on a little too much, but that's fine. He's pretty close to dry now. I'm pretty sure I can do what shenanigans I want to do with him. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and just attach him to this sticky mess because I don't need him to be super secured. And I mean, you can see it's not a great. Wait, come on! Wow, yeah, he's so dark that I think he's messing with the autofocus now. So I think he's doing his job. There we go. Yep. And see, didn't do too great a job covering him, but it's fine. He's gonna work perfectly fine. So the next thing I'm gonna do is find some paper towel. Do I have any paper towel? I'm gonna grab a paper towel because I want you to be able to see the chicanery that's about to happen. So we're gonna take a paper towel. We're gonna take some Apple Barrel. Apple Barrel. We're gonna do a dollop of the black, and then I'm gonna take some Apple Barrel white. This is very old. My wife gave this to me, and it was old when she gave it to me. But what we're gonna do is put a dollop of white in there, and then you're gonna take a dry brush. It can be any old dry brush. If you don't have a dry brush, buy some cheap makeup kits and buy a cheap makeup kit, and then use that dry brush. This is Bestopy, I guess, which is a one that I found on the Amazon for like $10 total. So I'm gonna mix this together, and I'm gonna make a lighter gray. Right? I'm making a lighter gray, and I'm just gonna get most of that crap off there. And now I'm just gonna brush down on him and hit him with this dry brush. And you see, it's gonna start bringing out some of the details. Now, what might be a problem is I might not have made that gray light enough, which is fine, because I can just add more white to it and give it even more detail, right? I don't know if you can see it already, but he is already starting to look a little bit brighter. And that's exactly what we want. But yeah, I think what I'm going to have to do is add some more white to it. So, wasn't enough gray, or wasn't enough white. That's fine. We're going to add some more. Meh. Perfect. Beautiful. Add some more white to that. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. And now you see how that's a much brighter white, a much brighter gray? Check this out. So now, when I hit it, look what happens. Look at how much better that looks already color-wise. And you want to have a heavy dry brush here. You want everything to get covered except for the creases, because the more black you leave on the model, the less your eventual color is going to end up on the model. Yeah, don't buy Citadel brushes for it. Like I said, go to wherever your best convenience store is and buy the cheapest set of makeup brushes you can, because that's legitimately all you need. Cheap makeup brushes work beautifully. Now, I will let you know, since this model is 3D printed and he was 3D printed using a really crappy resin, there's a really high chance I'm going to break this guy before I finish. So if I do, don't take that to mean I've dry brushed too rough. Take that to mean that resin is brittle. But you can see, like, look at how much more detail is in him now that I've done it. And I'm not even done. I really want him to be almost, like, completely covered. I want most of his body to show in this light gray. And I probably could have gone even lighter with this first layer. But he really, really needs to have a lot of dry brushing happening. Okay? Ah, no, I knocked him off his thing. Oh, he's supposed to be stepping forward. How did I not know that? Okay, there we go. Now he's good and covered. But again, you want to really cover him. You want to really get him covered in this. I'm going to add even more white because I feel like I don't have him covered well enough, okay? More white. Mix it in. And see, now it's almost like a silvery white. That's closer to what I'm looking for. So we're going to do that again. And look at that. Now he almost looks like I'm dry brushing him white. And it's like, well, BenryPaints, what's the point of getting him black if you're just going to dry brush him back up to white? And that's a good question. That's because the black is going to be all the deepest shadows on him, right? All the deepest crevices where light wouldn't hit him normally. But everywhere else, you want to bring back up to a lighter color, specifically so that when you put your new color on top, it's going to show as your new color, right? So yeah, like I said, get some cheap makeup brushes from whatever your budget convenience store is. They do not need to be expensive, and they do not need to be good. If you spend money on good makeup brushes, you're wasting your money for dry brushing. They are really just there to do what I'm doing. And you can see this is messy. This is sloppy. It'll show through the new color. Yes, black will show through pretty much anything, and you're going to be putting the new color on very, very thin, okay? So you want to get this up as bright as you can, or as much coverage as you can, and as bright as you can in a lot of different places. But I mean, you can see, like, he's definitely getting brighter, right? More of him is starting to show up as like a bright color. So he basically will look like a pale gray statue, almost like one of those statues that the ancient Greeks had, right? Okay. Now, honestly, I don't know if this is going to be bright enough, but we're going to find out soon. And the thing is, another thing to pay attention to is where the light's going to hit him. So you see how, like, under here I didn't work so hard on getting this dry brush on? That's because the light's not really going to hit him down there. Hey, Hyper Chameleon, don't go too cheap, otherwise you're going to be leaving bristles. Never buy cheap bulk brushes from Amazon or something unless you're doing texture paint where bristles won't be as noticeable. Very true. Very true. If you're really worried about that and you really want your and you don't want to have a whole bunch of other issues, then don't go all the way down to the bottom of the barrel, right? Now, to be honest, with I haven't had that experience with makeup brushes. I bought this as a pack from Amazon, and it was an incredibly questionable purchase. I have no idea who this brand is, and frankly, I didn't care. I just liked that they had like a rose gold handle to them, and that was enough. Okay, so now he's definitely got a dry brush on it. So the next thing I'm going to do is add even more white. I want to go up much higher with my color this time, with my my color levels this time. So I'm going to add even more white, and I think I might have thinned down this paint a little too much, and that's why it's so runny. But I want to go almost to a white with this. But I'm also going to be dry brushing over a lot less of an area, okay? So my goal here is not to hit the exact same spots. My goal is now to hit only the highest spots. Is that wet towel you're blending the colors? No, it's legitimately a paper towel. Hey Pilkey, how's it going? I am doing a quick guided tutorial of the slap chop technique, the undercoating technique. So, I've hit this guy, I've hand painted this guy black with some cheap apple barrel paints, and now I've gone over with a gray, and I'm going over with an even lighter gray, hopefully to a white. And my whole point here is I'm just going to brush down from the top, okay? Getting color equally distributed on the belly of the brush. Yes, that is definitely important. When you're doing more fine detail painting, that's incredibly important. For what I'm doing, this gross brushing technique so that you don't have to worry too much about detail, you definitely don't need to buy a high-end brush. Okay, but yeah, you see, all I'm doing is taking the white, and I'm not hitting it anywhere near as hard as I was. I'm just trying to hit the top spots where, like, the light would shine brightest on him. And that's going to be enough, because I'm just trying to highlight the brightest spots on him so that we have a little bit of depth of volume with his color. And again, you can see what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything super complex here, right? I'm just kind of taking the brush and slamming it across parts that I think need more color on them. And you can even see I'm going pretty assertive. In some places I might be going too assertive, and it's leaving brush smears. But for what I need and for what I'm going to do with him, that's fine. This is just meant to be a gross dry brush, specifically for what we're going to do next. So I'm gonna wash this off, and you guys are going to get to see my disgusting wet palette in a second. Actually, not even going to need that. One moment. That can go away. So here's the thing about this snow twig, is that this is not a finesse technique, and this is not meant to be. So what I'm going to do next, the actual correct way to do this, the recommended way, is to use a speed paint, or a, yeah, exactly. Part of the magic is using clever tricks to hide the crimes of cheap tools and poor technique. So you can definitely see he's got some highlights on him now. He's got some spots that are definitely a lot brighter. Yeah, that happened a while ago, and that was actually not a cheap one. This was a Winsor & Newton. I was just being really, really disgusting with it. So that has more to do with me being way too overzealous with the brushes. But there you go. So yeah, again, we're just doing a really quick technique. So what I'm going to do next is, they suggest you use contrast paints or speed paints, and that's fine. That's perfectly good for whatever you need it to do. Another way to do this, which I found still works, is to take a regular paint and then just thin it down really bad. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, looks pretty good for what I need to do. I don't know, Snow Twig, what color should I paint this guy? Like, what chapter would you want to see this guy painted? I know he's got Imperial Fist iconography, but I do not care. Which chapter would you like to see him painted? Red? Okay, cool. So, I've got this Vallejo Heavy Red. That's it, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a gob of it on there, and then I'm going to add a shit ton of water to it. Right? And my goal is to get it to the point where it is really just a mess. And now, I'm just going to put it on him. And you can see the gray kind of poking through. That's fine. Because what's going to happen is that because of the lighter and darker shades of the color underneath, it's going to create depth for you. And that's kind of the beauty of this technique. And again, speed paints definitely do this better for you. They're a lot better at kind of finding the low spots and pooling there, so you get a much better color concentration. But if you don't want to go out and buy speed paints, this works fine. Okay, I'm just going to cover the entire thing and then paint over the high spots later. But again, the whole point is that I'm trying to help you find a cheap and easy less finesse intensive way to paint some of your minis. Okay, speed paints have a completely different formula. They're also called contrast paints, and their whole point is that they're very runny and they're very translucent. So one moment. Yeah, this is a contrast paint. Yeah, airbrush paint is perfect for this, but this is a contrast paint, and so the idea with it is that I can put it on, and it will pool in the low spots, and kind of stay away from the high spots. So let's say I'm going to do this guy's leg with Talisar Blue, which is a contrast paint, right? So I put it on, and you can see it kind of has the same properties. It goes really low, and that's where it gets condenses, and it gets really kind of darker, but everywhere else, it just kind of is thin, right? So I can put it on really quickly and not have it, you know, take up a whole bunch of time on my part to get really good looking volume. And so that's kind of the point right now of doing this method, is you get kind of built-in volume and built-in blending, you know, different levels of brightness. Yeah. Different levels of brightness without you having to do all of the blending yourself and having to do all of the transitions yourself. And so when this dries, even though I did a very, very sloppy job on this, it'll be a fairly passable blue, right? I don't even know what blue this is supposed to be. But the idea is you're supposed to be able to do it in one coat. And Citadel has their contrast paints, which I think sell for like $8. And Army Painter has what's called their speed paints, which kind of do the same thing. So like, let me see if I can find. You wanted a red boy. That's yellow. I don't need a yellow. There's red. So here's a speed paint from Army Painter. These are like $4. They come with mixers in them. This one is blood red, right? So if I take the blood red and I put it on a palette, first of all, you see it's really, really dark, and that's okay. That's what we want. We want it to be dark, because when it pools, it'll be that kind of dark. So let's go ahead and take it, put it on his other arm. And you see it goes on really thick, but the idea is wherever it pools, you get like that really nice, rich, dark red, and wherever it doesn't pool, it kind of lightens up a bit, and that's the whole point. It creates that contrast for you so you don't have to work for it very hard. And so if you're not worried about your painting or your mini looking like a golden demon painting or something, then or like an award-winning paint job, then you can use a speed paint, get an army painted up really quickly that'll still look really good. How to get the paint so thin? On the speed paints, they come this way, and on the contrast paints, they come this way. On the red I did for the Power Fist, I straight up just hit it with a bunch of water. But yeah, like, I'm not too worried about it, right? The only problem that I'll say with this method, the only issue, is that you still kind of gotta be in the lines, because it doesn't cover itself very well. So if you're like, oh, I painted one part blue and I need to paint the next part brown, it's gonna show through. So that's my one warning. Okay. But yeah, you can kind of see what I'm doing here, right? And so, as this dries, actually, one moment. Let's speed this process up. I got a hairdryer I can use. So as this stuff dries, it will kind of dry in the color that you need. Okay. So, like, obviously, in this case, because I was doing it quickly, I need to go up a little brighter. As you can see from this side, this is still very gray. But on this side, you can see how the contrast paint does its job, right? And so what it'll do is it'll give you the darker shades where you need it in the dark spots, and it'll give you the lighter shades where you need it in the light spots, right? In the high spots. So I'm going to add a whole lot more water to this, this Vallejo Deep Red. And actually, I'm going to go around the Aquila and paint in the rest of him. And let's see how far I can take this. Okay. He's going to have one blue leg just because I don't want to have to paint over him again. Same basic idea. Thin the paint down. Don't let it pool except into places you want it to pool. Best way to think is pooling versus coverage. Regular paints rarely pool but get even coverage. Washes pool and recesses a lot but don't cover high spots very well. Contrast speed paints are midway between. They pool and recess but leave enough on raised surfaces to tint them. That's a really, really good way of putting it. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and keep farting around painting this guy a little bit. And hopefully you can see what I mean by, especially with how sloppy and fast I'm doing this, how little finesse you need to do this kind of paint job. Okay, okay, so upper body is decently painted, right? And so now, you know what, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to paint his lower body red, or blue. He's going to be Optimus Prime. So let's get that Talisar blue back out here. Unfortunately, the one problem with that I find with speed paints and with contrast paints in particular is they take for freaking ever to dry. And so there's a chance that you're going to end up, you don't want to go back over them and you don't want to reactivate them on accident. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the lower half blue, just because we already started that, so you can get a clear idea. But yeah, that's why it's so thin, is it's pre-thinned this way, and it's got a special makeup that allows it to pool in the way that it does, and cover the way it does. Because you see, like, that glob I just put into his kneecap, or in his the back of his knee, is very dark because there's a large concentration of the pigment. But as I pulled it back out, it thinned back down. Okay. All three are super useful for an experienced painters. Contrasts were first introduced almost as intro paints, but you can pull some really great effects with them. That is incredibly true. Contrast paints were originally marketed as like the paint your army fast, make them look good fast. And it definitely has some strengths and weaknesses to it. But as painters kind of get used to it, they start to see like, oh, it can actually be used for this, or it can be used for that. And I think I mentioned before, but Dana Howell has taken an extreme liking to contrast paints, and if you want to see some skillful underpainting done with them, you should watch some of her videos. She comes from an artistic background. She was a background artist for a long time before she really got back into mini painting, but her paints are always very different and very unique compared to, say, what you find on like the Warhammer channels. But you see, he looks pretty darn good. Give me a second. I just got a text. And so yeah, once he dries, you can see like he's got pretty good coverage. In the dark spots that I might have left a little too dark, he's obviously a little too dark. But that's why I emphasized at the beginning, you really want to push the light gray into the white. Because otherwise, if you end up with dark spots, you end up with really dark spots, and they're really noticeable, and then your paint job ends up looking very muted. So yeah, Pilkey, Snow Twig, if you're really worried about like shaky hands messing up your paint jobs, contrast paints or the slap chop method are a good way to start off, because they kind of do a lot of the work for you. And like I said before, I'm not super good at it. It's just something I've tried doing a couple times and realized how useful it was. But, like, you saw how little that took. And again, there are parts that you can fix. Like, he's going to have to redo the purity seal. You can do that with regular paint. You can just blop some red and then do what you need to do. Or you can do like I did up there and get some of the contrast paint on it. But the point is that this is a much easier method to get some good-looking paint jobs quickly. And you can see there's a little bit of volume happening there, because the rim around the Imperial Fist logo is definitely brighter than the inside of the Imperial Fist logo. Same with around the rim of his shoulder pad. and on the top part of his arm. And same kind of with over here. You can see that there are definitely high spots and low spots as outlined by the slap chop undercoat that I did, right? And actually, let's see, what's another color I can paint? I'm gonna go ahead and take this Azul Denso, this dark blue or heavy blue, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and add some water to it. I just dip my paintbrush in water, and then I start mixing it in, and you can see it's very watery, very runny now. That's what I want. I want it to be watery. I want it to be runny, because what I'm gonna do is just kind of put it over the helmet and let it sink into the bottom spot, or let it sink into the low spots. Might want to pull a little bit out there. Might have been a little too much. But as you can see, it tints the helmet, right? Now he's got a blue helmet with some white highlights. And again, this is me doing this really quickly and off the cuff. I'm not going to claim to be an expert at it. Like, there are some really good painters out there that are really good with the undercoating method. But this is just a quick and dirty, here's how to do it without a whole lot of, like, intense skill needed. I mean, you can see pretty clearly, this is a far cry from what I was doing a minute ago, where I was, like, trying to shade a dude's elbow, right? So I don't know if this was super helpful for you, but this is definitely another style of painting that a lot of hobbyists are embracing, because it really takes the onus off of them to have a high level of technique to achieve paint jobs that are more than just flat coats. Right, and actually, let's go ahead and do his darn Aquila. Let's make his Aquila a really horrifying yellow, right? We're gonna go ahead, get a little bit of that horrifying, gross yellow on there. Gonna get some water on it, gonna mix it in there. Oh, golly, look at that yellow. I'm happy I don't use this yellow for anything. I'm really mad I bought 3 bottles of this yellow because I thought it was an Imperial Fist Averland Sunset substitute, because I was wrong. Okay, we're gonna mix that in there, and this is where you might need a little bit of finesse. Oh, there's way too much water in this. That's okay. Okay, also sometimes fun. Yeah, exactly. Speed painting is fun, can be fun, especially because it's something you don't have to, like, have a lot of mental spoons to do, right? It can just be something you do to relax, so you're not having to worry about making every little detail. And see, again, he's not beautiful by any means, especially because I didn't hit him hard enough with the original underbrush, but he definitely looks like a painted Marine, right? Okay, L3, honestly, the right shoulder pad looks pretty fantastic. Yeah, I'm happy with how that turned out. But yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. And you can see, here's another point. You can see on his shoulder pad, I got some of the red on there, and that's clearly peeking through. That's why you probably want to be a little more careful around finer spots, because otherwise the paint shows through and then you have an issue. That would be neat to see an all Age of Sigmar Grot army that's contrast and slap chopped. Are you planning on doing like a squig army, or are you just doing straight grots? Optimus Prime is ready to kill some Decepticons. That's all I see when I look at him right now. Yep, that's it. That's all it is. I don't know how long that took me. I think the original painting of him took the longest to get him to a black, and then the rest of it took about as long as the first part. So it's a really easy method. It's a very squigs and gruts. That's beautiful. I want to see a bunch of little angry goblin boys. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit. Yeah, spiders are their own thing entirely. Okay, but yeah, I mean, obviously fast. Obviously that took me like no time. I finished painting. Well, I'm not really done painting him because you can eventually touch him up later if you want to, and that's kind of also the beauty of this. But he's pretty clearly closer to done than he was when I first pulled him out. And you can see he looks pretty darn good. Obviously, if I took a little bit more time, I wouldn't have all these weird gaps that I didn't, you know, slap on properly. But there was very minimal effort required there on my part. So if Snowtwig, you want to have a quicker, easier method to do it, that's the way to go. And actually, I think, give me a second. I did this with a couple of Sisters of Battle that I needed to get assembled really quickly, and I just used speed paints on them. And the way I did it, to be honest, was I think I just zenithal primed them, and then I hit them with the actual speed paints, and this is how they turned out. Like, these are 3D printed. They've clearly been zenithal primed underneath, but I mean, they look really darn good for spending maybe 15 minutes on each one, right? And again, there's still sloppy bits. You can see I didn't fill that in all the way. That one I kind of slopped on. Like, some of them don't look as good as other ones, but the point is that they're a lot closer to done than they would have been had I tried to really intricately paint each one of them, right? So hopefully that was helpful, because I'd really hate for you to not be able to really enjoy this hobby and to enjoy one of the cooler parts of this hobby. Speaking of Sisters of Battle, have you guys seen one-page rules, new versions of the Sisters of Battle? Because, like I've said before, one-page rules does their own thing, and because of their game, they have very clear parallels to 40k, and one of them is the Battle Sisters. And if you guys haven't seen the Battle Sisters, I don't know if you're gonna like them, but I think they're freaking cool. Ooh. They've definitely taken the whole idea. Man, this... Yeah. That was fast. I didn't actually know what I was going to do with this guy, so I'm really happy that he found a purpose. I also am really happy that the Terminators, the True Scale Terminators I downloaded, look so freaking cool. This is a great mini. Man. He's even got all the little accoutrements that a lot of minis are lacking because they don't want to put, like, purity seals built into the armor and everything. I really dig these guys. You're going to go over here for now. Oh, neat. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to advertise for one-page rules just a little bit. I love their system. I love the fact that you can get some really good prints for not very expensive, and that they look really good. I don't want to do browser. Window capture? Window capture. Yeah, there we go. These are the 3D printable Battle Sisters from One Page Rules. And this is on their My Mini Factory, so I'm not showing you anything you can't find on your own. But, like, this is what they're putting out. This is the style that they're putting out to replace their original Battle Sisters. And I just think they look fantastic. I love how these gals look. And I can't wait to add them to my Sororitas army, because I really don't want to spend any more money on a real Sororitas army. I also super dig their heavy armor, right? Like, look at these guns. Those are so freaking neat. I didn't realize there were more of those. So if you guys don't know about the Battle Sisters unit in 40k, there's one that can carry a holy relic, and it's one of my favorite units because she's holding on to a relic in a box in a cage on a stick. And I think this is supposed to be their version of it, and I think that's absolutely amazing, because these women look like they're otherwise completely useless in battle, but they just have these neat looking models that I'm definitely going to download and print out because I want to have a slightly larger army. And they're doing the entire line. They're doing like the Arco-Flagellants, they're doing the Paragon war suits. They're doing everything they can, and so it's going to end up being a really great line, and it's hopefully going to like slide right into the rest of the army. That being said, I gotta go eat dinner. It's 6:30. thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully that was both entertaining and informative for you guys. You got to see my painting stuff. For those who just got here, I wouldn't want to get bludgeoned with that. Exactly. That cross should do like 6 wounds on 1 hit. This is how my chapter master is turning out right now. I'm pretty happy with the look on him. I think the only thing I have left to do is get his gun, do a little bit of the little bits and bobs, and really hit that backpack. Otherwise, I think he's turning out pretty good. Thank you. I'm enamored with this cloak. It turned out way better than I expected, and a lot of that is just a lot of thin blending. So, yep, got to do the sword. He's going to be a great looking model. I'm very excited. And of course, as Soft Serval found out, he also is going to have like the most tired looking face ever. He just looks so exhausted with everything. Let me see if I can do this without blocking out the... Why does that block out the light so bad? But yeah, he just looks so very tired, and that makes me laugh. So that's going to be the chapter master face. Though I don't know if I showed this to you guys before. I obviously got the Hearthkin Warriors, and they have some of the greatest faces I've ever seen. I cannot get over how much I love this little dog, the bounty hunter face. He's absolutely perfect. So at some point, I'm going to have to put him on something. But anyway, that being said, I gotta get going. Thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something. And like I've said before, I know, right? When apple teeth see you around. Yeah, exactly. I stream from 7 to 7:30 in the morning, and I stream when I get home around 5 to 6. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at work. No problem, guys. Have a good one, and bye-bye.